Zach is back. It's the Zach Gelb Show on Fox Sports 920 The Jersey.
Welcome back in. Time in our Princeton Orthopedic Associates Studios, 416. A lot of football talk on this Monday. Eagles get the 29-10 win over the Browns. Giants 20-19 win over the Cowboys, and the Jets get the loss to the Bengals by 1 point. Now joining us on the hotline is a former Dallas Cowboys QB and now does a tremendous job as the radio analyst for Cowboys football and Compass Media, and that is Danny White, who joins us right now on the Zach Gelb Show. Danny, good to talk to you again, and how are you?
Hey, thank you. It's good to be with you. I'm doing great. Thank you.
Well, thank you for coming on, and we do appreciate it. So everyone's talking about the end of that thrilling Giants-Cowboys game. You were on the call yesterday for Compass Media. Terrance Williams not going out of bounds. Dallas really not making a conscientious effort at the end of the game to get out of bounds in that entire 105 stretch. How about the Cowboys in the final 105 yesterday of that thrilling game?
Well, it certainly would have been nice for the Cowboys, for all their young players, for Dak Prescott to have, brought them back, for Dan Bailey to have had a shot at a long field goal. There's a lot of what ifs, involved in the end of that game, but that's football, and that's the great thing about it. It's live TV. You can't go back and redo it, and players have to make plays and make decisions. And it would have been nice if Terrance would have just taken the ball and run out of bounds. But I don't know. I've read some of his quotes from after the game, but collectively, I think everybody watching that game said to themselves, "Where is he going?" He was already running towards the sideline when he caught the ball, and he stopped and turned back into the field. And man, if he had just angled over to the sideline, he'd have ended up with a, who knows, 50, 54, 55-yard field goal attempt from the most accurate kicker in the history of the National Football League. He'd already made two over 50 yards, 54 and 56, and so sure would have been nice to have given him that chance. Boy, that would have, a whole lot of things could have changed with that one split-second decision.
And you know how it is now with Twitter. Everyone's making fun of Terrance Williams, and I wonder how much he does pay attention to that. But you're exactly right. I'm sitting there with my friends yesterday, and everyone's screaming, "Get out of bounds, get out of bounds." It seems like everyone knew to get out of bounds besides Terrance Williams. As a player, I'm sure you made mistakes in your career. How do you bounce back from something like that?
Well, hopefully he's not listening to Twitter and he's not reading social media or even the media reports. That's the risk you take for all the money that you make. I mean, these guys get paid an awful lot of money today, a whole lot more than we got paid when I played. And as a result, I think the criticism is a lot greater because of social media. So that's kind of the trade-off. And if you want to really be a premier player, considered a great player in this league, you're going to get the ball at critical times, and you better make the right decision. And if you don't, then that's the risk you take. That's the price you pay, and he's going through that now. And hopefully, it will be a positive for him. He'll learn from it. He'll fight his way through it, and he'll come out the other end a better football player, a stronger man, and be able to handle things like that and not ever make that mistake again. But, just know that when you're in that kind of limelight, that kind of thing can happen, and it often does happen to a lot of professional athletes, just people that are in that spotlight.
And you know it better than anyone, seeing the Giants and the Cowboys play over the last few years, doing their games for Compass Media, that this is a Giants team that last year they would not have won that game. And in the offseason, Jerry Reese invested a lot of big bucks in that defense, and that defense was sensational yesterday, especially on Dez Bryant. Dez, I was very shocked, only one reception for 8 yards. When you were watching that game, what did you notice the Giants do so well on Dez Bryant?
Well, they played a lot of two deep coverage, and they were able to do that because they were able to get pressure up front with four guys rushing. And they didn't have to blitz a lot, and anytime you can get pressure, with just four guys, it gives your secondary a lot of help. And there were two things that I noticed about the Giant defense and where they've improved, and that was one of them. Of course, I fault the Cowboys a little bit for not just going to him more often when they did have a chance. There were times when, especially at the end of the game, when the Giants were man-on-man, Janoris Jenkins was over there just covering him man-to-man, and the Cowboys never did go to him and try to get a big play out of it. And part of that credit goes to Janoris, but part of it goes to just the lack of the Cowboys for not exploiting it a little bit more. The other thing is that the front that controlled Ezekiel Elliott, and they did a great job against, arguably the best offensive line in the league, and just didn't let them open any holes. There were very few, if any, times when Ezekiel Elliott got into the Giants secondary. They just stopped him at the line of scrimmage, and it was all he could do to gain 2 or 3 yards. So that Giant defense is definitely, at least based on last night, improved over last year.
Yeah, no question. Elliott was a big key going into that game because he's a very emotional player. Just looking back at his career at Ohio State, and he wears all of his emotions on the sleeves. And I sense a little frustration from him because that is your debut. You want to play so well, and the Giants just weren't letting him get at all comfortable in that game. And they did a great job with their front seven. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, you're right. I sensed it too. You could see him getting frustrated and just nothing there for him no place for him to run. They just all played their gaps extremely well, played their assignments well. It was a good game plan and good calls, and as a result, the Giants just never had the blitz. What you hope happens is you end up forcing them to blitz in order to stop the running game, and that opens up those guys in the secondary and guys like Dez for big plays. They would just have to be content with the short throws over the middle, to Jason Witten and Cole Beasley.
We're talking to Danny White, who joins us right now on the Zach Gelb Show as we're recapping what happened over a very exciting Week 1 of the 2016 National Football League season. We mentioned Ezekiel Elliott. Now let's get to the Giants' run game. Not a position of strength, but yesterday they complimented Eli Manning very nicely. I liked what I saw from Jennings, and then Vereen had some small plays down the stretch that really did make a big difference for Big Blue, Danny.
Yeah, and Shane Vereen was really the guy that had the most success, and especially at the end of the game when the Giants kind of had to move the ball on the ground, they did it with both of those guys. But early in the game and really throughout the game, Shane Vereen was the guy that was getting into the secondary and getting big chunks of yardage. I think he ended up with a 6 or 7 yard average per carry. And so I was really impressed with him. And of course, his ability to catch the ball coming out of the backfield is a kind of an added advantage to have him in the game. But yeah, the Giants' running game was effective, and of course, Eli is Eli. He's going to be that guy that's going to make plays when he has to. And when you boil it all down, the Cowboys scored 5 times, and the Giants only scored 3 times. But the Giants scored touchdowns, and Eli got the ball in the end zone. And the Cowboys were kicking field goals, and that's not a good trade. And so even though they scored more times, the Cowboys were 7 for 3, way to 4 out of 5 times.
I was talking about it earlier in my show, how there's no better feeling for a fan in a regular season than getting a big win on Sunday than waking up Monday, and it makes that Monday a little bit easier to go to work, which is always tough to get up on a Monday. But let's get to a player, Victor Cruz, that has not had that excitement over the last 2 years because of the injury. He gets the game-winning touchdown catch yesterday in his first game back in 2 years. What's he feeling like today? He must be on cloud 9, right?
Yeah, he's feeling good. It's been a long wait for him and a struggle. He came into the league with a bang his rookie year, and it's kind of been downhill ever since. And then last year missing the whole season. So Victor Cruz, and everything I've heard about Victor Cruz is he's a quality guy, and he's a first-class, hard-working guy, and so even Cowboy fans have got to take their hat off to him. And I'm sure today he is walking on cloud 9. Now he's a pro, and so he's got to temper that just a little bit because there's another game next week, and it's going to get here before you know it. And you got to celebrate, on that plane ride home, and then get back to work and get ready for the next one. That's life in the National Football League. You can't celebrate for too long, and And I'm sure Victor is the kind of guy that this is going to be a launching pad for him. This is not the end all be all. This is just one step, and he's going to use it now to have another great season. And that's the Victor Cruz that I think I know.
When you got into the league, you had to wait behind the Hall of Famer and Roger Staubach, and now you see so many of these young quarterbacks in the league get put into the fire right away. Even yesterday, Dak Prescott played a very nice game, and then also in Philadelphia, Carson Wentz lit up Lincoln Financial Field, 22 completions, 278 through the air, and had 2 touchdowns with no turnovers. And even also Jimmy Garoppolo, who had to wait a few years, but now is getting his chance in the concise time before Brady gets back. And you were all surprised by the way these young guys are able to look so comfortable on the field in their first starts?
Well, not really, but I think too much attention is given to them. You know, when I started after backing up Roger for so long, it really wasn't me. It was the people around me, and I just stepped into a system and kind of filled the gap and just went out and did my job. I didn't have to worry about anybody else doing their jobs, and that's what Garoppolo had for sure. I mean, he's got a system there where you don't reload, you don't replace, you reload. You just plug guys into the system, and that's a credit to that whole staff and everybody in New England and what they built. But you know, the real surprising one to me was Carson Wentz. I mean, he's after all the abuse he's taken and being bounced around, and nobody seemed to want him, and then he comes out and plays like that. That's a credit to the guy's integrity. I tell you, he's got to be a hard worker. He's got to be almost indestructible mentally to take all of that and then to go out and play the way he did. And so yeah, there were a lot of performances from young guys yesterday that I was really proud of, and it just really it makes you feel good for them to be able to take that kind of criticism, abuse, in some cases, Garoppolo being a backup for so long, and then to be able to go out and perform like they did. That's a good side of the sport.
And I know with Wentz, it's his rookie year, so you're going to have ups and downs. You're not going to have that perfection each and every game like we saw yesterday. But my time around him in Eagles training camp this year at the NovaCare Complex, the most impressive thing to me was his intelligence and the way that he conducts himself. It seems like he's been in this league for already 10 years with the maturity at his young age. So still, even though he tried to play it off and not say what the Browns were saying in the media was a distraction, and he didn't want to be that distraction. He just wanted to go out and play good football on the field. Though down deep, he had to be a little bit nervous going into that first start, right, Danny?
Oh, are you kidding? Are you kidding me?
Take me through that emotion level.
But you take that. You take that in stride, and you don't get outside of yourself. And that's what Dak Prescott did well yesterday. He didn't try to do too much, and that's what Wentz did. I mean, he went out and he played. He let the other guys do their part. He didn't try to win the game himself, and he just went out and took his keys and his reads, and he played. And I'm sure today he's thinking, well, yeah, that was a good start, but it was the Cleveland Browns for one thing.
Good point.
And we were at home, and we there are a lot of things. It's not going to get any easier for him. Yeah, he's gonna come up against tough opponents that are going to blitz him, and guys that that are much better players than the ones he faced yesterday. And I'm sure he's aware of that, and he's not going to get too caught up in himself over one game.
So what advice would you give to some of these young quarterbacks like a Dak Prescott and also a Carson Wentz playing in enormous cities where all the attention is on them? What advice would you give to them while they still grow and learn in the National Football League?
Yeah, just keep an even keel. Don't get too down on yourself and don't get too high on yourself. Just stay in the middle and you'll be fine, and learn from your mistakes. Don't repeat mistakes. That's one of the best things any young quarterback, and even whether you're playing or not, you got to learn from other people's mistakes, not just your own. And that's something that I really focused on when I was backing up Roger. And Roger was a great quarterback, but he made mistakes. And when he did, it was almost as if I was in the game making that mistake, and I wanted to learn from it and not repeat it. So these young guys today need to do that. They need to watch a lot of film They need to not repeat mistakes, and they need to not get too high or too low. There are going to be some bad moments, and when they come, you got to just take it, let it roll off your back, and just keep moving forward. And by the same token, don't get too caught up in people slapping you on the back and telling you what a great player you are, what a great job you did, and just take that in stride as well.
And that's what makes the best quarterbacks the all-time greats. It's because of that competitive nature, and they're always focused on the next play and the diligent effort they put in these games, both on and off the field, and just that competitive nature. I remember Byron Chamberlain at the Super Bowl a few years ago tell me a story about John Elway, how he was the most competitive pool player, and then someone on the team beat him in a game of pool, and the next day he had that pool table thrown to the curb. So you got to see it right behind Roger Staubach. Just tell me a little bit about his competitive nature and what you saw behind the scenes with Roger.
Well, yeah, I remember beating Roger in ping pong my rookie year out at training camp, and he wasn't used to getting beat. He was the best ping pong player on the team, and a little young upstart rookie kid came in and beat him, and that paddle went right through the wall. I tell you, you talk about a competitive guy. Roger Staubach was the same way.
How bad was the rookie prank the next day after you beat him?
No, I don't remember a prank. There was no prank involved. He just never played me again.
Danny, best of luck the rest of the season. Love hearing you on the radio. Thanks so much.
Thanks a lot.
There's Danny White joining us, the former Dallas Cowboys quarterback, now a radio analyst for Dallas Cowboys football on the Compass Media Networks. Always fun to talk to him. So, really, with that Giants and Cowboys game yesterday, it's inexcusable how Terrance Williams doesn't get out of bounds, but it's also inexcusable just from Jason Garrett and the entire coaching staff how in that final 105, there wasn't any sense of urgency, and you had no timeouts, and you're running plays that are going in the middle of the field. You have to be running out routes and getting to the sidelines and picking up big chunks, especially when you have a field goal kicker that could kick the ball through the roof, and how accurate he is. So yesterday, that was a game, though, that the Giants, and I'll say it a million times today, they would not have won that game last year. And yes, you do need some luck. You do need some favorable fortune. I say it all the time. I'd rather be lucky than good in the National Football League. But they had that luck yesterday with the play of Terrance Williams having a brain fart, a mental error, and not getting out of bounds. But really, what was a big difference yesterday, and if you're a Giants fan, you have a lot of excitement, and this is why I picked them to win the NFC East, it is the production from the defense. You know the offense is going to produce, and the offense, really the X factor, is that right side of the offensive line, which played okay yesterday. I was impressed with the Giants, and you had the nice run game. But the difference with the Giants this year, that to me makes them the favorites in the NFC East, and I know it's only one game, but this is my prediction before the year, is that defense. Last year, you had an amazing offense that was prolific passing, and you had a defense that was the worst in the league at number 32. This is not going to be a top 10 defense. This is not going to be a top 5 defense. You're not going to have a Giants defense that's going to be putting up historical numbers like the Great Bears teams or the Ravens teams in the early 2000s. This is not a Dick LeBeau defense or a Jim Johnson defense. But this is a defense that if you could stay in the middle of the pack in the National Football League, you're going to have a successful record with the numbers that your offense does produce. And yesterday, the defense for the Giants was the shining star. The way they eliminated Dez Bryant, one of the most lethal and dynamic receivers in the league, and they contained him to only 1 reception for 8 yards. I was in awe about that. If you would have told me going into yesterday that Dez Bryant would have 1 reception for 8 yards, I would say, what? Was it on the first play of the game? No one saw that coming. But you got to give credit to Janoris Jenkins and DRC. A very solid defensive effort yesterday from the Giants' corners. And the front was amazing. JPP. You down with JPP? Yeah, you know me. Olivier Vernon. That was a team, and I believe that Ezekiel Elliott is going to have a really good rookie year with the Cowboys just because of that offensive line and his tenacity and his aggressiveness running the football. But Ezekiel Elliott had 20-something carries yesterday and just got a little bit over, I believe, 50 yards. They got him frustrated early. Yes, Dak made some plays, but you let those plays occur with Dak Prescott if you're taking away a star weapon running back and a star weapon wide receiver, not only on your team, but in the entire league. And the Giants just made enough plays to win. That's a gritty, good first win for the New York Football Giants. Now, as far as the Eagles, we got into a whole lot of that already. The excitement level is through the roof with the Wentz wagon. Almost 300 yards yesterday, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Moved the ball meticulously down the field for the Eagles. Eagle fans were chanting E-A-G-L-E-S, Eagles, at Lincoln Financial Field yesterday. But some other big quarterback news, because if you remember going into this game, there was a lot of talk. And the talk was about Paul DePodesta saying Wentz not a top 20 quarterback, and Hugh Jackson saying he wasn't the right fit. Now, the Browns' plan may ultimately work because they could get the quarterback that they want in Deshaun Watson in the first round this year. There's a good chance that could happen. But I still don't understand how the Browns pass up on a quarterback at number 2. I wanted nothing of Jared Goff. I thought Wentz was the better deal than Jared Goff, and Wentz fell to the Eagles. But the Browns traded away that pick. And yesterday, Wentz looked sensational, and RG3, well, he's going to be out for a long time as he has a shoulder injury, and he's going to be out for an extended period of time. So the Browns continue to be the Browns, and the Eagles yesterday, they look like a team that you start to see the future develop. Wentz isn't going to do this every single game. He's going to have his roller coaster moments. There's going to be good, and then there's going to be a lot of bad. But yesterday, you saw the hope. Let's see what he does against Chicago. You should beat Chicago, even though the game is in Chicago. But then that first big test for Carson Wentz is week 3 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's the first big test. So take it with a grain of salt of what you saw yesterday, but you should be pumped up if you're an Eagles fan because you got the big win and your franchise quarterback and your new head coach got an A+ in their debut. Zach Gelb Show, Fox Sports 920 The Jersey, 609-919-9200 is the number. Time right now in our Princeton Orthopedic Associates studios, 4:38. When we get back, you'll hear from the Rutgers head coach. Got his first win as the head coach of the Scarlet Rutgers Knights. That is Chris Ash. They beat Howard, got off to an ugly start, down 14-0, but then wiped out and just destroyed Howard. So you'll hear from Chris Ash next on the Zach Gelb Show, Fox Sports 920 The Jersey.